Hello and welcome to Flex Fitness. Today's fitness tip, we're going to talk about the proper method to ice any injury you have, whether it be a chronic injury or something more acute that's happened within the last 24 to 48 hours. So when we talk about icing, we want to use the acronym CBAN. So that stands for cold, burning, aching, and numb. And this really pertains to the time frame that you should be applying ice onto that injury. Before we get to that acronym, I want to also just touch on the mechanisms that we can use for icing. So obviously we can use one of the gel packs that they have readily available at the store. Those are great because they form really well to the injury, to the knee, the elbow, etc. And then we can also wrap that with a tensor bandage, so that it penetrates deeper into that joint and that complex. We also want to make sure that we're not putting it directly on skin so that we don't get any burns and things of that nature. You could have a nice light t-shirt or wrap it in a towel and then wrap it with a tensor bandage to help it penetrate deeper. There are topical creams, those work great as well. Sometimes they're, just like you say, very topical, so they're not going to get as deep. So we're talking specifically about icing. You can use for your finger, you would use just an ice cube and rubbing across like this. There's also ice packs that are little ice cubes in little different sections. So there's gaps between. Sometimes that can cause blisters potentially, or if you're just using a good old bag of ice, we want to make sure that that's crushed ice. So we're going to get a more contoured, even, coverage of the injury, so we're not getting little gaps of air and it's not going to penetrate as effectively. All right, so ideally we're using these gel packs, which are great. So back to CBAN, so cold, burning, aching, numb. So we want that, first we want to feel that sensation of cold, and then you want to make sure you feel that aching, and this is where sometimes people feel like, oh, okay, I want to take it off. Keep going, keep pushing through, and I promise it'll get better. And then we get to B, burning. And again, people are going to want to maybe take it off. Oh, I've done enough. Nope, push right through to that end of CBAN, numb. That's what we want to get to. We want to get to the point where that is numb. And then we take it off. So that's going to be approximately 15 to 20 minutes. And then we take that off. Within that first 24 to 48 hours is really important to ice that injury, because we want to bring that inflammation down, get that exudate fluid out of there. So icing is important. As much as you might feel like going into a nice warm bath and getting some jets on there is ideal, the best thing you can do is get ice on it to bring that inflammation down and rest and elevate, okay? So rest, ice, compression, elevation. So resting, and then icing, so the CBAN comes in when the icing. Compression would be the tensor bandage, and elevation, so if it's an ankle or knee or lifting it above, then same thing for the arm. Those are going to help with bringing that inflammation down, so very important to do that. After this becomes something a little more chronic, so beyond that 48-hour period, the inflammation should be down, then you can start using some heat, which is going to reintroduce more blood flow, bringing in oxygen and nutrients that are going to help repair that injury if it doesn't need surgery, and that's another discussion as well. Again, if it becomes chronic, but anytime that you feel like some pain or inflammation, we want to ice first, okay? Heating can come after that, once the inflammation is down, 24 to 48 hours period. Okay, CBAN and RICE. Enjoy it, remember those two acronyms. And if you have any more questions about today's fitness tip or any other fitness tips, contact us. I look forward to hearing from you. Keep flexing your fitness.